Hey y'all, it's Cam again. So this is the Robert Hur Classified Documents report against Joe Biden. Um, this has about 56 pages in this particular section. It's chapter 14. There's 388 pages. So anyway, uh, this will be the second video. I'm gonna set a timer for like 30 minutes to see if I can get the rest of this knocked out because I think it goes to about 316 on the counter here. So anyway, on the page count. So let's get going. But anyway, this is like I said, chapter 14, starting right here. It says document handling and filing in Mr. Biden's vice presidential office in the West Wing. Mr. Biden's office suite in the West Wing of the White House during his vice presidency consisted primarily of his office and a connected front office. During his vice presidency, Mr. Biden's first executive assistant and staff assistant worked in his front office from the start of the Obama administration through mid 2012. The assistants who staffed the front office at the end of the administration, the executive assistant and staff assistant three, started in mid 2012 and mid 2014, respectively. The front office staff collected and organized Mr. Biden's records. Classified records were retrieved by members of Mr. Biden's National Security Affairs team or sent to the White House Situation Room. The majority of unclassified records were regularly sent to the National Archives as presidential records, and given the volume of paper that passed through his office every day, if staff did not constantly collect, organize, and archive his records, paper would have piled up quickly and became unmanageable. In addition to records that were regularly archived, Mr. Biden's front office staff kept a relatively small number of files for him in their desk drawers and a credenza located behind the executive assistant. Those files were generally materials, including briefing materials, policy papers, and other official documents that he wanted to keep outside of the normal archiving process, at least temporarily. And let's see, view of the front office and the executive assistant's desk and the rear file cabinet in December 2016. And then there's, I guess, a different view of that. Okay, and then Mr. Biden sometimes wrote a note on material he wanted to save. For example, he might write save in office, or file. In at least one instance, Mr. Biden wrote a note on a classified call sheet instructing his executive assistant to retrieve the transcript of a call with the foreign leader for my records. The vice president, okay, and then there's, I guess, something. Anyway, portion of a redacted vice presidential note card with file written on top. And the files kept in the front office also included some of Mr. Biden's personal documents. For example, Mr. Biden sometimes asked his front office assistants to save poems he liked or retrieve Biden family genealogy information stored in the files. The front office assistants occasionally reviewed their files, selected material they determined Mr. Biden no longer needed or wanted, and sent it to be archived. Based on the documents recovered from the Penn Biden Center, however, the occasional review of files stored in the front office was imperfect or not exhaustive. Many of the files stored in the front office, both personal and official, were old. Some dated back to Biden's first term as vice president or even his Senate days. Mr. Biden's move out of the vice president's West Wing office. At the end of the Obama administration, Mr. Biden's staff prepared to pack up and move out of his West Wing office and into a transition office in Washington, D.C. Mr. Biden's front office staff, led by his executive assistant, packed up his West Wing office. Packing the office was a challenge. Staff had to pack up and move out by inauguration day while continuing operations till the very end of the administration. The executive assistant recalled packing everything up in maybe a couple of days in January 2017. The front office staff packed up both Mr. Biden's office and the front office. The front office contained the bulk of the files to be packed. The executive assistant recalled hanging file folders from the front office into boxes provided by the General Services Administration. The staff assistant packed up the contents of Mr. Biden's desk in his West Wing office. The desk contained some files, most of which were personal, for instance, quotes and speeches that Mr. Biden referred to often and noted, or notes from family members. Mr. Biden's staff did not recall him packing any of his own boxes in the West Wing office, nor did they recall him directing them to bring specific files that they were moving out of the White House. However, there were a number of types of files that the executive assistant believed Mr. Biden would want to keep with him, such as mementos relating to Beau Biden's death, the genealogy of the Biden's newspaper or news articles, policy papers, and copies of the schedules and speeches. She described the packing process as somewhat random. She explained that we knew that he was going to write a book and do some speaking engagements, but none of us knew what we were going to need. The executive assistant did not believe the files they packed contained classified documents. The front office staff's practice was to return classified documents to their originating office or to the White House Situation Room, either daily or whenever Mr. Biden was finished with them. Staff lacked the time when packing to review files methodically to ensure everything was disposed of correctly. A total of roughly 15 boxes were moved from the West Wing office to the transition office in the administration's final days. Once at the transition office, Mr. Biden's staff did not unpack many of the boxes of files from the West Wing office, and Mr. Biden was not there daily, but did come by occasionally for meetings. In late June of 2017, Mr. Biden and a core group of staff moved from the transition office to the Penn Biden Center's temporary office in Washington, D.C. They stayed in this office for several months while the Penn Biden Center's permanent office was under construction. Because Mr. Biden's staff knew they would not be at the temporary office for long, they did not fully unpack, and material remained in boxes there. In October 2017, Mr. Biden and his staff moved into the Penn Biden Center's permanent office. Once there, the executive assistant recalled unpacking some boxes, but not all of them because there was just no need. She unpacked some of Mr. Biden's files into file drawers in the outer office adjoining Mr. Biden's office. In particular, she sorted some files in a 3-drawer filing cabinet adjacent to the door to Mr. Biden's office. The executive assistant could not recall how they determined what to unpack versus what to leave in boxes. When shown copies of the files in boxes 1 through 3 recovered from the Penn Biden Center, the executive assistant recognized many of them as files she maintained for Mr. Biden in the West Wing. For instance, with respect to a manila envelope at the front of box 3, labeled layout of Beau's house. She explained that this file was very important to Mr. Biden and he wanted to have access to it. She stated that the file came from the White House, where she had stored it in her desk in the front office or in the credenza behind her. She then brought it to the Penn Biden Center, where she stored it in the outer office. The executive assistant also identified her handwriting on many file folders in boxes 1 and 3. She noted that some of the files in box 1 through 3 predated her time in the White House, and she likely inherited many of them from her predecessor. The executive assistant did not specifically recall any of the folders containing classified documents, although she acknowledged that they could have been files she maintained for Mr. Biden in the West Wing. She identified other files that postdated the Obama administration as one she likely maintained for Mr. Biden at the transition office or the Penn Biden Center. Numerous unclassified files in box 1 through 3 contain handwritten notes from Mr. Biden directing that the contents be saved or filed. The executive assistant explained that these notes meant Mr. Biden wanted the files saved and kept in the office rather than archived in case he wanted them later. During the administration, she did not have an expectation of where the files would go after Mr. Biden's term as vice president. But when she packed the files to move out, she expected the files from the West Wing office would travel with Mr. Biden to his new office. Origin of marked classified documents in the eyes only envelope. In January 2015, around the date handwritten on the eyes only envelope recovered from the Penn Biden Center, the Obama administration was negotiating the Iran nuclear deal. The administration sought to obtain concessions from the Iranian government that would limit its ability to develop nuclear weapons. In exchange, the United States and other countries would ease economic and trade sanctions on Iran. During those negotiations, the administration worked both to gain congressional support for the Iran nuclear deal and to ensure Congress did not take action that would interfere with negotiations, in particular by imposing additional sanctions on Iran. Additional sanctions, in the administration's view, would cause Iran to walk away from a deal and toward further development of nuclear weapons. And this has been going on forever. Okay, so the administration also opposed legislation that would purport to give the Senate an up or down vote on the final Iran nuclear deal. And then there's a bunch of footnotes. All right, the administration sought to engage members of Congress to advance these goals. Given his lengthy service in the Senate and longstanding relationships with members of Congress, Mr. Biden assisted in that effort as vice president. As part of that effort, Mr. Biden scheduled a breakfast with 6 senators on January 29, 2015. Mr. Biden's national security advisor emailed staff on January 24, 2015, stating that the VP wants to do breakfast next week with the aforementioned senators to discuss Iran sanctions. Call noted that this is the group that traveled together to Israel and other spots in the Middle East, and many came back in support of the Corker-Graham-Iran legislation we oppose. Move this further. Okay. The day before the breakfast, Mr. Biden's national security staff gave him a briefing memo stating that the 6 invited senators returned from the recent trip to Israel more skeptical of imposing new sanctions on Iran along the lines of the Kirk-Menendez legislation, but more sympathetic to Corker-Graham legislation that would give Congress an up or down vote on a final nuclear deal. The memo also stated that additional classified papers will be provided separately and soon after. And then you want to look this stuff up. Okay, sorry. Soon after emailing the memo, a staff member sent another message stating there'll be more classified material later. The evening before the breakfast with senators, the White House and intelligence community staff prepared a set of classified intelligence products from Mr. Biden, documents designated A3 through A6 by the FBI, which was delivered to him the next morning in an envelope marked for his eyes only. That night, Mr. Biden's Deputy National Security Advisor, Jeff Prescott, emailed Mr. Biden's staff. There are IC products that are being generated per high side traffic for the VP in advance of his breakfast tomorrow. VP has indicated that he would like them delivered to him as soon as possible, anytime after 6:30 a.m. tomorrow, so he can so that he can absorb before the breakfast meeting. An NSC staff member responded in the email's reply thread. Just to clarify, these are compartmented materials that can only be delivered in hard copy. The NSC staffer said she had connected our CIA briefing team with the person who delivered Mr. Biden's copy of the president's daily brief every morning, his briefer. So hopefully she can facilitate the physical transfer to the appropriate folks. Mr. Biden's briefer replied, I will drop everything at NAV Ops by 6:30. And then Mr. Biden's briefer stated it was possible she packaged the documents in an envelope marked eyes only because such envelopes might have been the only ones available in her office at the time. Prescott responded asking Mr. Biden's briefer, can you please specifically indicate the products that are responsive to this request and highlight them separately for Mill Aid to deliver to VP. Oh, and then Mr. Biden's, hold on, sorry, Mill Aid. The briefer responded she would do so. Prescott replied, telling her to please bring one for VP and a separate copy for call, both to NAV Obs. Mr. Biden's on-duty military aide responded on the thread, I will be in the kitchen at 6:30 to take delivery. I will hold calls with me and send the VPs up with the morning traffic. At 6:28 a.m. the next morning, the military aide notified the recipients of the email thread that he had this sensitive materials. I had the PDBs and the other document for the VP and call that the briefer dropped off. The VPs will be delivered with this morning traffic unless he contacts me or any of you and wants them earlier. I will hold calls until he arrives. Mr. Biden's executive assistant asked, can you please put note on the docs he was asking about to highlight it? The military aide replied, they just went up and the document said for VP eyes only. A National Security Council staffer replied in the email chain that afternoon, hoped the VP was satisfied with the materials and found them helpful prior to the breakfast. It was a solid compilation. Classified emails with the intelligence community confirmed that the documents provided to Mr. Biden were those recovered from the Penn Biden Center and designated by the FBI as documents A3 through A6. Mr. Biden hosted the breakfast with senators the morning of January 29, 2015, as shown in the photograph below. As shown in the photograph below, Mr. Biden had a manila envelope with him at the breakfast. Let's see. Oh, I guess that's what's on the floor. Okay. Okay, so origin of the handwritten notes in the eyes only envelope. The handwritten notes in the eyes only envelope recovered from the Penn Biden Center appear to be Mr. Biden's own handwritten notes that he created in preparation for his breakfast with senators. Many of the notes are repetitive and appear to be from the same day, January 28, 2015, the day before the breakfast. The notes all appear to be written in the same hand, and a former executive assistant to Mr. Biden identified the handwriting throughout as Mr. Biden's. And the photograph below shows Mr. Biden at the January 29th breakfast with some of the pages of handwritten notes later found in the eyes only envelope in front of him. In one of his notebooks, the title of the page is Basic Premise to JRB Operating From. Whatever. I guess he knows what that means. Okay. Okay, so a former executive assistant to Mr. Biden confirmed that at times Mr. Biden committed talking points to memory by writing them down, sometimes multiple times. We considered but ultimately rejected the possibility that Mr. Biden or his staff collected the handwritten notes designated A7 from different people after a meeting involving discussions and note taking about the highly compartmented information also found in the eyes only envelope. The handwritten notes did not address the same information as the other documents, and no witness recalled an instance or practice of collecting participants' notes after a sensitive meeting in the White House, and that theory is inconsistent with the evidence that the relevant handwriting in A7 appears to be a single person's, and it's Mr. Biden's. The special counsel asked Mr. Biden about the January 29, 2015 breakfast with senators and the handwritten notes in the eyes only envelope during Mr. Biden's interview. Mr. Biden had no recollection of the breakfast or the handwritten notes. Mr. Biden's continuing interest in the Iran deal after receiving the eyes only envelope. Mr. Biden's efforts to persuade members of Congress continued after the breakfast with senators. Other examples included a telephone call with the senator on February 4th, 2015, a telephone call with the representative on April 11th, 2015, a telephone call with the representative on April 14th, 2015, a meeting with Senate Foreign Relations Committee Democrats on July 16th, 2015, and a telephone call with the senator on July 29th, 2015. Breakfast with members of the House Democratic members on July 30th, 2015, and a meeting with House Democrats on July 15th, 2015. Yeah, 2015. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Biden's interest in the Iran deal potentially extended beyond his official duties and his time serving as vice president. In May 2016, Wanitzer, the ghostwriter for Promise Me Dad, then in the planning phase, emailed Mr. Biden and his staff a one-page description of the book we've been talking about. The description proposed a recounting of a small window of time in the spring and summer of 2015, which may be the most momentous epoch, I guess how you say it, of the 8-year administration. The description listed a number of administration activities during that time, starting with the negotiation of the framework of the Iran nuclear deal and the effort to convince Congress to sign off on the pact. Ultimately, however, Promise Me Dad did not recount the negotiation of the Iran deal or Mr. Biden's role in it. The book's sole mission of the Iran deal is in a brief description of a call with the senator in early 2015, whom Mr. Biden called to touch base with him on the Iran deal in the Northern Triangle and to bring him up to date on the effort to get money set aside for the Army Corps of Engineers to deepen the Delaware River channel. Okay, Mr. Biden and his advisors, several of whom were affiliated with the Penn Biden Center and were former senior officials in the Obama administration, had a continuing interest in the Iran deal as a matter of foreign policy after his time as vice president. In October 2017, for example, his Penn Biden Center team provided him several note cards worth of updates on the Iran nuclear deal and the Trump administration's stance on it. His staff also prepared remarks for him to give at the Brzezinski Annual Prize Lecture at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Roughly a full page of the remarks defended the Iran deal and criticized the Trump administration's threats to pull out of it. His staff later drafted a decision memo with the subject statement should President Trump announce that he's decertifying Iran's compliance with the Iran deal. The decision memo set forth a proposed statement for staff to post to Mr. Biden's Facebook account shortly after then President Trump's expected announcement that he would not recertify the Iran deal. In February 2018, Call sent Mr. Biden an events memo for a meeting with the Israeli leaders. Call described actions taken by the Trump administration on the Iran deal and set forth talking points for Mr. Biden to advocate for the deal with Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Netanyahu and a Penn Biden Center staffer proposed Iran deal post UNGA and fight with allies as one of several topics for members of his team, including Call and Blinken, to brief Mr. Biden on in October of 2018. Analysis. Insufficient evidence exists to prove Mr. Biden's willfully retained the classified information in the eyes only envelope. There's insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Biden intentionally retained the classified documents in the eyes only envelope after his term as vice president or caused his staff to do so. Instead, the evidence supports an innocent explanation for the unauthorized retention of those documents. Mr. Biden may have expected to need the materials for further discussions with members of Congress about the Iran deal, which he continued to have after his breakfast with senators on January 29, 2015. Given his practice of having his front office staff store files he wanted to keep close at hand, Mr. Biden likely gave the eyes only envelope to his executive assistant to keep within reach for future engagement with members of Congress. He and his staff appeared to have eventually forgotten about it, along with other older files in the front office collection, and staff members unwittingly moved it out of the West Wing at the end of the administration. Okay, Mr. Biden's front office staff kept files in the front office that he wanted to keep close at hand for reference. The files recovered from the Penn Biden Center included those in the eyes only envelope and were files his executive assistant kept in the front office and eventually moved to the Penn Biden Center. One member of the front office staff periodically went through her files to identify material Mr. Biden no longer needed, but the executive assistant does not appear to have done the same. The age of many of the files recovered from the Penn Biden Center, some of which dated back to Mr. Biden's first term as vice president, is consistent with the possibility that the executive assistant and Mr. Biden simply forgot about them, having never purged or archived them. Some files remained in the front office in January 2017 that Mr. Biden likely no longer needed, wanted, or remembered. Moreover, the eyes-only materials were stored in an envelope that was not marked classified. Mr. Biden's executive assistant said the eyes-only designation did not necessarily signify classified or contents. She typically identified classified material by the cover sheets, which she said were usually always included. She also said she would have respected the instruction that it was for Mr. Biden's eyes only and would not have looked inside. When interviewed, the executive assistant did not recall seeing the eyes only envelope while packing up the West Wing office or unpacking at the Penn Biden Center. Even if she had seen the envelope, it is reasonable to believe she did not know the contents were classified and would not have looked inside to check because of the eyes only stamp. Some evidence suggests Mr. Biden had a motive to retain the documents in the eyes only envelope after he left office, but that evidence is weak. He did have a continuing interest in the Iran deal, both as a matter of foreign policy and as a potential topics monitor considered for Mr. Biden's book, but there's no evidence that he ever accessed or requested the eyes only envelope after leaving office, or that he knew his staff had moved it to the Penn Biden Center. None of his advisors at the Penn Biden Center remembered the documents. The materials they prepared for Mr. Biden on the Iran deal do not reference the type of classified information on the eyes only envelope. The executive assistant stated that she had no knowledge of the envelope's contents and no memory of him ever asking about it. and Mr. Biden did not appear to recognize the documents during his interview with the special counsel. He barely mentioned his role with the Iran deal and promised me that, and does not appear to have thought it an important part of his legacy. Some former advisors stated Mr. Biden was pessimistic about negotiating with Iran, but started the negotiations anyway in support of the president's. All right, I'm going to stop it here and then just finish up those last 5 pages. But anyway, I'll get this loaded up as soon as possible. See y'all. Bye.